Hi, I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert for professor.com. We're going to continue with improving sentences, and this is going to be fairly tricky. In fact, I'm going to try to confuse you a little bit here, but try to work with me on this because this is probably one of the hardest sections to teach and also probably one of the hardest sections for a lot of students to improve on. So try to get lost in all the variations of a bad sentence. Just sensitize yourself to what that is so you can start to see that there really is a value in a clear, simple sentence. So there's going to be some confusing sentences here. Let's look at a sample problem. Here's our sentence. The specific intention of his compositions is the writing of beautiful melodies. Let's see how the SAT torturers might turn an ugly sentence like this into a beautiful problem. Here it is again. The specific intention of his compositions is the writing of beautiful melodies. Ask yourself, does this sound correct? Yes, no, maybe. Do compositions have intentions or do composers have them? If you think compositions might have minds of their own, well, I guess you might think this sentence is correct, but the SAT test makers are unsympathetic to artistic types who bend the language to fit their sensibilities. Remember, the test is about standard written English, that beautiful animal that lives on the web pages of the Internal Revenue Service and the Post Office. So we've decided that the sentence as presented seems to have problems, but the problems are non-specific, sort of like a patient who goes to a doctor complaining and feeling tired. Hard to know what to do, right? In fact, some patients go to the doctor and don't come away with a diagnosis. Bear this in mind as we forge ahead. Remember, sometimes the problem is that there's no problem. The sentence might be ugly, but it might not be wrong. Now, let's look at a few variations of this sentence. Your job is to take this awkward sentence and choose the best version you're presented, ideally rendering a Winnebago as sleek and tight as a German sports car. Remember, answer A is always the same as the original example, so we'll skip it for now. Let's look at other choices. B. The specific intention of his compositions are the writing of beautiful melodies. What's changed here? Notice the verb is has become are. Do you think that's an improvement? If you said yes because you think the verb needs to be plural to agree with the subject, compositions, you've been made a victim of one of the grand strategies of the SAT test makers, which is to hide the subject. The actual subject of this sentence is the specific intention. That's the thing which does the action of the sentence. That's singular. So the verb needs to stay is. Those of you who fell for it, sorry. Here's C. It's believed his intentions as a composer aim him to write beautiful melodies. This one adds a prologue. Do you think it helps? Also, these intentions are now acting on him, turning the composer into a passive subject, which weakens him. Do you think Bono or Jay-Z are the victims of their intentions, or do they write their own music? D. On the other hand, goes like this. The specific intentions of his compositions is the writing of beautiful melodies. Ouch. We're back to the original form, but this time they've added S to intentions, making the subject plural. So is wrong. Now, are you getting a headache yet? Here's the last variation, letter E. His intentions as a composer are aimed at him writing beautiful melodies. Now even I have a headache. Is this sentence okay? No, actually, because, well, do intentions ever actually aim at anyone? But now we have a problem because we don't really like any of the sentences, do we? Oh, well, guess what? I fooled you. None of these sentences is any good. But there's only one version which is even tolerable or arguably correct. And that's A, our tired, grumbling patient. Well, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed is king. Okay, so I've made this sentence especially bad to make the point, and it doesn't seem fair. But it is fair, because the improving sentences section is not about finding the correct version, but the best version. Sometimes even the best version might be an awkward slob, though generally it won't have anything as ugly as the sentences that I've shown you. Frankly, I've made this example a bit problematic to make my point. But now you've probably started saying to yourself, this is really terrible. Why would the SAT torture me by asking me to find the best version of something and then not even giving me something really good? Why can't it be a simple case of right and wrong? Well, let me be Socratic for a second. Do you think the city planner who has to tear down a neighborhood to build a mass transit system has a right and wrong answer? Does the cancer doctor who has to decide between radical surgery or experimental chemotherapy face a simple right and wrong choice? Does the president send in more troops? Does he propose another economic stimulus? They're going to say, oh, we're going to have to pay taxes for the last one. Yeah, but if he hadn't done it, the entire system would have tanked. Oh, he's going to pay a price for that, right? So here's another little discussed fact about the test to consider. Part of what makes it difficult is that it's asking you to make tough decisions. In fact, these decisions will indeed have real-world consequences, your future. Wow, that's a heavy burden, isn't it? Especially in a school system that up till now probably hasn't even allowed you to think a thought of your own, much less demanded that you do so. On the other hand, those of you who are eager to jump into life, here's your chance. The test, you see, demands that you take the initiative, because thinking itself demands no less. It's all about taking responsibility, being a self-starter, and diving in. Oh, but we still aren't happy about our sample question, are we? Remember that one, letter A? The specific intention of his compositions is the writing of beautiful melodies. Surely the SAT would give us one or two answers that might actually be pleasant to read. Maybe so, but just for fun, let's invent some other answers using letters you're never going to see in a real test, like F, a mythical beast invented for this lesson. His aim as a composer is to write beautiful melodies. And G, remember you won't have this many choices in the real test. He aims to compose beautiful melodies, which is his intention. Oops, aims and intentions are the same thing, so that's redundant. And now H, yes? H. He aims to compose beautiful melodies. Wait, that can't be there. It's so simple. Why not? Aren't most of the best things in life simple in the end? You'll be lucky if you're given that possibility, and maybe you will. But bear in mind, maybe you won't. You've got to choose the best choice you're given. Whoa, that was exhausting. I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert for professor.com.